All right, folks, welcome into the Fight Freaks Unite Recap Live Edition. As promised, we are here on the Sunday night of Memorial Day weekend. I am merely the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. Hello to Big Dan Rafael, our insider. Fight Freaks Unite is his Substack and is also his newsletter. Make sure that you are on both of those right now as we rock along here on this Sunday night. Big Dan, how are you? How are things here on this Sunday evening?
TJ, I'm good. I like our experimentation. Doing it live for the peeps.
We're going to go live, people. We said we were going to go live. We're here live tonight.
It'll still be there for the audio.
That's correct.
Aficionados.
So correct. So this is a live thing for now, exclusive on YouTube for a little while. And again, if you're hearing us on podcast, come find the video because we did that earlier in the night. Podcast went out as normal on the normal timeline if you're hearing it. But we did this as a live video as part of Memorial Day weekend. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, a little bit of a slower weekend. Number two, it's a holiday. I'm trying to cram things in. So is Dan. And we said, you know what? Let's do it live. And we've got fight results, including an upset of Josh Taylor, which we didn't see coming. We've got fight news. We've got Ali-Liston 2 nostalgia. We're going to get to all of that on the program. Thank you for finding us on the YouTube page. Make sure you are subscribed. That helps us out. Make sure you hit the like button, share this out, comment below the live video. All of that helps. We'll get to some live comments. I already see live comments coming in on this Sunday night. We'll get to some live comments if we have time as we go. If you're on podcast, again, come find the YouTube page. Help us there on podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. If you're on the video and you didn't know, where you been if you didn't know that we have a pod out every weekend previewing and recapping, go find it. Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, Big Fight Weekend podcast. Come find us there as we go in and come off of every weekend. Do our best there with that. All right, so with that, let's do what we do. Let's get into it here for a little bit. Again, understatement of the night. I didn't see it coming. You didn't see it coming. What happened to Josh Taylor here is he lost by decision to someone named Echo Usman from Botswana by way of England, who fought harder and better down the stretch of the fight, right? And
yeah,
won
no
this.
doubt.
What happened?
What happened is Josh Taylor is finding out, like the rest of us, that he's seen better days. I mean, it's not a knock on Josh Taylor. It doesn't detract from the great accomplishments that he's had in his career. But these things happen to all boxers. And, Usman may not have been a household name, but Josh Taylor knows him well. They had been members together on the Team GB and the amateurs. They sparred together. They've known each other. And Josh Taylor obviously went on to great exploits as a professional. But I think the writing is now on the wall. I don't know if he has to retire. I mean, he may. But the reality is, when you're at that level that he has been at and you suffer 3 consecutive defeats, really most people think it should be 4 because the fight before that first official loss was the highly controversial decision that he won against Jack Catterall in their first fight back in 2022. And also, it's not even a matter that sometimes when guys lose, they decide, okay, you know what, I've had enough in this weight class. Maybe it's been a struggle to be on weight. I'm going to move up. Well, he did move up for this fight, and he didn't have success in the welterweight division. And no knock on Usman, but it's not like he is a top contender. Good fighter. Seemed like he was there to win. Obviously, he showed a sturdy chin and great resolve, and really came on strong in the second half of the fight, which is how he won it. But I'm not going to compare him to, other like elite welterweights of today and yesteryear. So this is a writing on the wall kind of.
This was set up for Josh Taylor to get back on track and get a win, and the worst possible thing happened, correct?
Look, it's his first fight with a new promoter. Queensberry Promotions did not try to sandbag him by matching him with a guy he wasn't going to beat. The idea was, let's give the fans a good fight against a guy that Josh should be a 70-30 favorite against. So our guy we think is going to win, but at least he'll be entertaining, and we'll see what he's got in this weight class. And we'll take care of his business, and we'll move him onto a bigger fight. And now that's out the window because, like I said, he's got the official win that most think he lost against Catterall. He looked terrible in a loss when he lost the WBO belt and the lineal title to Teofimo Lopez. Then he lost legit and wide to Catterall when they finally got the rematch together in a non-title fight. And now he has this loss that he took on Saturday, and you can't even complain. He lost the fight in his home area, in the Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland. That's been like his fortress. That's where he got the win against Catterall in the first fight. It's where he fought a number of his major fights. So he's in a situation where it's like, what do you do? Now, if you go back to the beginning of the fight, TJ, I thought Josh Taylor looked really good the first 5 rounds.
Right.
He was winning the fight. He was outboxing him. He was out punching him. He was moving him back. His defense was solid. His footwork was good. Like, he looked like, okay, you know what? Josh looks like he's here to make a statement. Maybe he won't get the knockout, but he sure is going to outbox this guy. And he did that for most of the first half. And then, I don't know if it was a matter of he got tired or something happened, but the combination of that, and then of course, Estaman, figures things out. He said in his post-fight interview, which I found to be very interesting, that even though they had sparred and known each other all those years ago as amateurs, that he pulled some things out. He didn't specify, but there was things that he noticed that were similar to what he remembered from when they sparred. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. That's like a decade ago probably. But regardless, he got the job done. And I mean, Taylor, stormed out of the ring. He didn't do an interview. He seemed very perplexed by the scores. I thought they were perfectly fair. It was 8-4 on 2 cards. And 7-5 on one.
The unofficial score on DAZN, whichever one was doing that, had Estaman winning the whole back half of the fight. So
that was
and
Carl
you said
Frampton,
the same. And you
Carl
said the
Frampton.
same.
Yeah, I mean, so Taylor, he's got some soul searching to do, as they say. It's again, I don't know if the career's over, but the notion that he's going to be the A side in a main event, that ship has probably sailed. I mean, he's 34 years old. He's had some rough fights. He hasn't had a lot of fights, but he's taken some damage in those fights. But the thing that to me, and he's like the poster person for this, is the layoffs, TJ. We talk about it every single week, it feels like. Josh Taylor, now part of this was not his fault. He was, in my opinion, among the fighters that were most impacted by the pandemic. I believe Josh Taylor is one of them. One fight in 2020, and it was a first-round knockout against a horrendous mandatory. One fight in 2021, that was the glory win against Jose Ramirez, but it was super close other than the knockdowns. Then one fight in 22, that was the controversy against Catterall. One fight in 23, that was the loss against Teofimo. One fight in 24, where he got wiped out by Catterall in the rematch. And now, most likely, going to be this one fight in 25 against Estaman. How do you be at the top of your game if you've had one fight in the last 5 years, 6 years?
One fight a year. One fight a year. Right.
And it's not like, it's very, very hard to do that. That's one of the reasons why people talk about Canelo against Crawford. And a lot of people have sort of been turning towards Crawford because of the way Canelo looked in the last fight. Crawford's in the same boat. He's barely fought for years.
That's right.
And only had one fight at 54. Now he's going to 68. So Taylor, he didn't switch weight classes like that, just a one weight class change in terms of this fight. But the inactivity has absolutely destroyed Josh Taylor's career. Again, not all his fault. Some was pandemic related, the constant postponements and then cancellation of the Catterall rematch, issues with injuries, issues with his opponent, issues with television issues, promoter issues, whatever. But the end result is he fought barely at all for the last number of years. So from his crowning moment against Jose Ramirez, he didn't fight. And he's now paying the price.
We have seen the better days were against Jose Ramirez in that undisputed title win, and obviously back now 6 years ago against Regis Prograis in the World Boxing Super Series unification title fight that he won. Those are his best days, but that's a long time ago. It's
somebody made the point to me on Twitter, X, earlier, with this loss by Josh Taylor, with the horrendous performance of Jose Ramirez and 2 straight losses that he took, both again, in the fight against Devin Haney and then previous to that against Arnold Barboza, combined with the tremendous off the cliff performances of Regis Prograis in his last 3 fights or so, that era when they were the 3 best fighters in the division, all undefeated, all winning titles, all being involved in major fights, that era is now done. Now, all 3 of those guys are still probably going to continue to box. But the notion of them being in the top of the division, that's all done. So they were the 3 best of their time, but that time is now gone.
Agreed. All right. On the undercard, and again, thank you for finding us if you're watching us live. Some of you are obviously seeing this later on. We did this live on Sunday night. Thank you for finding us on the YouTube page exclusively. For those hearing us on podcast, we did the show live on YouTube. So that's why you hear us making reference to this. And we may even sneak a comment or 2 in here from people, Dan, that are watching us live on YouTube that are chiming in with what we want to talk about. That includes earlier in the card, heavyweight Moses Itauma wiping out another opponent, the American that he beat in the second round, knocked him down in the first round, and then eradicated him with a big right hand coming in. Itauma's 20 years old, a lot of potential. Tell me what you saw. This was expected, and he delivered early.
Yeah, I mean, his opponent was Mike Balogun, a 41-year-old fighter from Maryland, former professional football player, strong guy, big heart. As Moses Itauma said in his post-fight interview, I think he spoke for everybody. How shocked he was when Balogun got up from the second knockdown. He did show a lot of resolve and a lot of heart, just did not have the skills or the chin, frankly, to compete. But when he got up from that second knockdown, he actually went at Itauma, and like a desperation situation, it felt like to me. But he did get in a couple of shots. Itauma didn't, seem phased whatsoever. And the remarkable thing is when he finally put him down, I think this was the third knockdown, maybe it was the second knockdown. All I know is he threw a shot off his back foot, and it landed, and he still put the guy down off his back foot. Like, in other words, he didn't have the momentum going forward on the punch. He didn't catch him with the full force, and it still dropped him. And at that point, that's the third knockdown. He's been getting, hammered, and that was all she wrote. So, like you said, he's 20 years old. He's now 12-0 with 10 knockouts. I'm on the bandwagon. I picked him as the prospect of the year in December. But I will slow the roll of everybody because I've been reading all the social media and listening to the prospects.
Settle down.
He may be a tremendous prospect. I don't dispute that. He may be a future heavyweight world champion. But to say that that's a guarantee that he is like the next.
You had some chucklehead mention the name Mike Tyson with you, and you had to, like you swat me, you had to swat that a little bit on settle down. Because
he has never fought anybody that's okay. He fought Marius Wack, who like 15 years ago was like a decent contender who lost to Klitschko in a world title fight. But when he fought him, he was like 38-10 and just a body waiting to be drilled. And that's what happened. Dempsey McKean, solid guy, but nothing to write home about. Did go into the 12th round against Filip Hrgović and get stopped. And he took him out in one round. That was impressive, okay. But Mike Balogun they only got him because he's got a good record. He's never fought anybody. He's never shown any real boxing acumen. He comes in from football. He's a late bloomer, late starter, if you will. So, again, I'm not saying anything negative about Itauma. I can't wait to watch him again. He's probably going to be back from what his manager was saying. They're going to put him, it makes sense. Obviously, he's with Queensberry. He'll be on the undercard for the rematch between Usyk and Dubois in July for the undisputed heavyweight title, and that's obviously the perfect spot for him. And maybe he will become, the big star in the heavyweight division. But when I keep hearing people say he's like the next global superstar, I laugh because in boxing there's really basically one global superstar in the whole sport. I mean, they're few and far between. So I love him, but I'm tempering it till I see him with an actual contender, an actual guy that is known to the public, that has some level of accomplishment. Like I saw people say, well, he would beat Hrgović, he would beat Joseph Parker, he would beat Martin Bacoli, whatever. All these guys that we're naming. So you know what?
Show us that.
Overpay the guy to get him in the ring, and then we'll see if he can do it. Now, I happen to think he would annihilate Martin Bacoli. That's my opinion. I don't know if he annihilates a quicker. A guy quicker than Bacoli with a lot more ability and a lot more experience, like a Parker, Hrgović, maybe, you never know. He's been inconsistent, but again, boxing is as my dear friend Larry Merchant would say, boxing is a show and tell medium, and show wins.
Exactly. And let me give you a quick example. Remember fans in the recent, Edgar Berlanga was flattening everybody in the first round. Remember that? What was it, Dan? 10, 12, 14 first round knockouts in a row. Remember that?
A whole bunch.
Back a few years ago, back about 3 years ago. And we kept saying, wait until he is in with better competition and then let's see. And that is just a classic recent example that while he's been good, he hasn't been great. And the first round knockouts stopped, by the way. The knockouts period stopped, by the way, once he started facing better competition. That's all you're saying here with Itauma.
Right.
I'm just
so again, this is not in any way whatsoever a negativity about Itauma. It's very hard to find opponents for him. I get that. The promoters are going to have to start to seriously overpay the opponents to get them in the ring. I get all that. One thing that really irritated me today was when it was announced that now the WBO has made him the #1 contender. Now, I'm all for Moses Itauma being in a fight against a top contender. But to tell me that he's the mandatory challenger and that somebody might get stripped of their title if they don't fight this guy, to me is lunacy, because he hasn't earned the position in any way, shape, or form.
He hasn't beaten a top 10 WBO fighter. That makes no sense. He hasn't beaten a top
20 guy. Give me a break.
All right.
Anyway, so this was, just to be clear, not a dump on Moses Itauma.
No, you said that. We agree.
Love Moses Itauma, but I need to see.
Show me more.
His handler's got to do a better job of finding him the opponent.
And there's time for that.
He's
the
20.
Rest of this year, he's 20, and the rest of this year and early next year, you're going to see whether he's got the goods or not, because he's going to be in there against a better opponent or two coming up, you would think.
That all said, next time Moses Itauma is fighting, it is must-see.
Be there.
Well, unfortunately, TV doesn't rhyme with must-see. It's must-see stream. I don't know, whatever.
You could say must-see TV like NBC did, but must be in the seat early because he's been ending fights early. Stay tuned. All right, we go to Saturday night in Japan, what was Saturday morning early for us, and Angelo Leo did defend the IBF featherweight championship by decision over Tomoki Kameda. I have to say this was not a thrilling fight. There was some good action. Neither guy seriously hurt, neither guy down. Leo, the busier fighter, it looked like to me. I thought this was a just decision going on the road and winning in Japan. What are your thoughts in the recap mode, Dan, on Angelo Leo?
I thought this was a really, really professional, poised, measured performance. I thought Angelo Leo fought a tremendous fight. I really did. I mean, Kameda fought a good fight also. It's just he's just not as good as Leo. He's a little older. He's a little smaller. He's a little bit more shop worn. He's had much more, mileage on the tread, as they say. So it's not even a knock. I think Kameda could still probably compete. It's just he hasn't been able to get over the hump when he fights the better guys. And for Angelo Leo to go to Japan of his own free will and fight this mandatory fight, they could have tried to make the fight in America. They would have certainly had the better percentages in terms of their favor if it had gone to a purse bid, but they decided to go there. Obviously, he knows that it's the home country of Naoya Inoue, who he did say he'd love to fight afterwards. That's a fight that I think if you're anywhere in the 126-pound 122-pound region, that's the guy you want to fight. He brings the money and the prestige and the name, but he had to go take care of Kameda. He went to Osaka, Japan, Tomoki Kameda's hometown. And he's not fighting a bum. Kameda comes from a boxing family. It's his family who runs the promotion company that put on the event. He's a former world title holder in the bantamweight division. And Angelo Leo, have gloves will travel. I thought he fought a beautiful fight. As you said, very just decision. It was a majority decision. One judge did have it 114 to 114. The other two judges had it 116, 112 in Leo's favor, 115, 113 in Leo's favor. That felt about right. We talk about the range of acceptable scores. I'm not even mad at the 114, 114. I get it. It was, there's a couple of rounds that might have gone either way, but I thought he did a tremendous job. It was not, like you said, it's not going to be challenging for fight of the year, but it was not by any means like an unwatchable, boring fight. This was a very high class fight. And, especially in the second half of the fight, Angelo Leo did a really good job. In the, say 10 through 12, 9 through 12, he probably won at least, 2 or 3 of those rounds to salt it away and gets the job done. And now he's on to, hopefully for his sake, bigger and better things.
And would those give me a quick answer, would those better things potentially be Rafael Espinoza? You talked in the preview mode. That's an easy fight to make because they're both with top rank. Could a unification fight be later this year? What's the guess? What's the educated guess from you for Leo?
My guess is that probably won't happen. I mean, he's co-promoted by Top Rank. They still have, I guess, an option on the next fight. He's really with Pro Box. They'll look around and still, Top Rank will have the first option to make something for him. And maybe they'll try to make it with Espinoza. I'd love to see it, but I just have my doubts, frankly. And the reason I say that is because even though for the dorks like us, it's an excellent matchup, it's not a big enough money fight, I don't think, for either guy to take the gamble when they can make better money fighting other guys in the division, and that won't be as lucrative. So, I'd love to see it, but probably what he'll do is he'll come back, have another fight here in the United States. He did talk about how he wouldn't mind going back to Japan. Obviously, there's featherweight action in that part of the world, but he is, I think, right now, based on the Lopez win, based on traveling for this victory, you can make the argument it's either him or it's Espinoza, who is the number one featherweight in boxing right now.
You got Nick Ball as the WBA champion, right? That's the in
Yeah,
Liverpool.
I don't know if I would put Nick ahead of those.
I wouldn't put him in front of Leo or Espinoza right now. Maybe we're biased a little bit because we're in the U.S. The British fans would put him in front, but not us.
I've never once in my days doing this ever given a shit what nationality the guy was from. You got Espinoza's a Mexican, Angelo is American, and the other guy
Nick Ball
is from England. So to me, if you can fight, you can fight. I couldn't care less where you're from. But the bottom line is, however you rank them, those are the three guys, obviously. I mean, I don't even think that's a question.
All right. We got two other results. And
by the way, just let me clarify, backing up one moment.
Yep. Real quick.
When I mentioned about Moses Itauma being the mandatory, he's not actually the mandatory. What he is number one in the WBO rankings. He won't become the mandatory until they say you're the mandatory.
And he presumably would have to beat someone in the WBO rankings for that. All right, so there were two other title fights on the undercard of the Leo win. Pedro Tatarán defeated Shigeoka in a rematch and retained his IBF strawweight title. And also Friday night, junior bantamweight Willibaldo Garcia was a winner in the vacant IBF junior bantamweight title fight with Rene Calixto, if that's how you say it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
so those are two other title fight wins. If you want to give me a quick something on those, they can read more on your Substack because you're always recapping in your social media. But those are the two other title fights since we're in the recap mode. Real quick.
Well, in terms of the Tatarán and Shigeoka fight, this was a rematch. This is when Tatarán had fought him and stopped Shigeoka back in July to win the title. This is the IBF strawweight title. So they were having an immediate rematch. And like I said, he stopped him the first time. He didn't stop him in the rematch, but he won the split decision. But the scary part about it, and it was a hard hitting kind of fight. It wasn't like a brutal grind him out physical, where both guys took excessive damage. But what it was a very tough fight. And the frightening part about it was when they were announcing the decision, or just about before they announced the decision, Shigeoka collapsed in the ring. They literally dragged him out on a stretcher. I mean,
that's not good.
And I was kind of like surprised because I've seen, unfortunately, this happen in other fights. Typically, the protocol is they're real careful when they're putting him on the stretcher. They've given him oxygen, and they were not careful, it didn't seem to me, putting him on the stretcher, and there was no oxygen in sight. So that said, and I have not personally discussed this with anybody, the Japanese Boxing Commission. What I saw in media from Japan is that the Japanese Boxing Commission said that he was in the hospital and in stable condition. So say a prayer for Shigeoka, but that was a rough, tough fight. In terms of the other bout that you mentioned, that was a rematch of a draw that took place in December. And this time that was also surprisingly in Japan, but this time Garcia, he gets the win, a real, a good competitive, entertaining fight. I actually thought he won a little bit wider than what they ruled it. Nonetheless, he gets the title. And if you remember, we discussed this beforehand. The title that he won was the one that Fernando Puma Martinez vacated because he opted to take the bigger money, higher profile rematch against Ioka instead of the mandatory. And so that became the vacant title fight. And when they fought to a draw, then the IBF ordered it to be a rematch. And that was what took place on Friday. Good fight. And now here's the upshot of that is I talked to the folks that are involved with our boy Willibaldo, and he's going to be there in Frisco, Texas, sitting ringside, they say, to watch the fight that comes up in a few weeks between Jesse Bam Rodriguez and Fumalele Kafu, who are meeting to unify two of the other titles, and they want next. Like, in other words, we want the winner for a 3-belt unification. Obviously, they're hoping that'll be Bam Rodriguez for the mere fact that he brings a tremendous amount of money compared to Kafu. But that's a great thing if they can go and get that match done. That would be another significant fight in the career of both guys. Obviously, Jesse Rodriguez is putting himself on the pound for pound list in recent fights, and if he can unify further and move a step closer to undisputed, that would be a big deal. And obviously, if Garcia, who's got like 5 losses, he'd be a huge underdog. But if he can pull it off, that's a
golden
legacy making win.
Golden ticket for Willibaldo Garcia. Again, IBF junior bantamweight title win for him on Friday. We strive to give you all the names and all the recap stuff. Hey, you want to do this for just a second? We're going to get to the news in a second, but the Savages are everywhere and complimenting us left and right. I don't even know where to begin. Julio says, hey, Dan and TJ, awesome to see you guys live. Thank you, Julio, on that. Martin in Florida weighed in and said, Josh is an old 34 in the fight game, no longer top tier. I think we agree with that.
Yep.
Mr. Big Play, if I have this, Mr. Big Play Bray says, come in, hit the like button, support these guys. We agree. Canada Chris, who's with us on Other Stuff, says, hey, I'm finally on the YouTube live feed. Hit the like button, share it out. Canada Chris, again, we're doing this live. We're doing it live, Rayfield. We're doing it live. We're doing it live.
Relax,
it's an inside joke.
Relax. It's not
inside
like we're discovering it. Not like we discovered America.
Inside joke. Let's see. Who else? Boxing God was weighing in on your point about inactivity and said Crawford looked ordinary in his last fight. Canelo looked ordinary in the last few years. Crawford has much more tread on the tires, but how do we know he hasn't been active, which was what your point was earlier, right?
Look, I'm not sitting here saying I'm not saying Crawford can't win the fight or anything like that. I'm just making the point about the activity level, and that might be a reason why he looked a little rough against Majimov, and it was a new weight class also. And as far as Canelo Alvarez goes, he's got 500 rounds as a professional, and he has been active. He has been consistently fighting twice a year. Which is considered active by our standards today.
Yes. By the way, Lee says, agree with Dan. 20 years old, has so much time. He's talking about Moses Itauma. Would like to see him against Jermaine Franklin next. I don't know if that does enough for us, but.
Well, that'd be actually a big step up for him. I'm not sure why they picked out Franklin specifically. I'll theorize and say because Franklin at least got some notoriety within the British public because he did give, a pretty decent fight to Anthony Joshua. And there'd be some comparisons made. And, he's a reputable heavyweight. He's not like an elite heavyweight, but he's certainly not a bum or anything like that. He's a credible guy. He had a good amateur career. He's fought some good fighters in the professional ranks. So that would be considered a big step up. So
people have put down the hot dogs and the beer, and they are flocking to Rayfield's live. Rayfield's live. All right, so they're flocking to you. Dank Kid says, thanks for the live pod. Excited to see more. We thank you, Dank Kid. Who else? Joey says, I'm commenting for the algorithm. Great stuff, guys. Yes, put the comments down below the video. Even if you're seeing us after the fact and we're not getting to your live comment below the video. That helps out. As well. There are more weighing in. Let's see who else. Jay Deep wants to know. I'm going to go see the Mission Impossible movie tomorrow. Many have already seen it. He wants to know, would Todd Cruz make a good prize fighter? I don't know. Well, wait a minute. Wasn't he in?
He could be like a fan man, right?
Wasn't the Nicole Kidman movie After Days of Thunder, the Far and Away movie? Wasn't he a fist fighter? Idea. He was a bare knuckle fighter in that movie.
Here's the point. He does a lot of wacky stunts in these Mission Impossible
but
movies.
They're all stunts.
Right, but he could play the fan man in boxing.
Julio wanted to know unification next for Angelo Leo. We talked about that. Probably not.
I don't want to say probably. That's just my impression.
That you didn't think it would be the case.
I hope it would be. There would be a unification. That would be obviously.
Man, we got comments galore. All right, so we're good on that. Let's get to a little news, shall we? Tyson Fury took to social media. He's on vacation, right? And says, I am retired. And as I just put up there on the screen for the video audience, or the pod audience can't see it, no one still believes him, Dan Rafael, that he's retired. What do you believe?
Look, when he announces his retirements, we cover it and we mock him. And when he says he's now definitely retired, the opposite, and we can do the same. It's news when he says this because we still think he will fight one more time. There's that gargantuan payday sitting there waiting against Anthony Joshua, which will be a humongous fight for the sport. I've said this before. I believe that the two fighters, they owe it to everybody to do this one fight. I don't say that a lot about fighters. They don't really owe us anything, but because the way Fury dicked us around for all these years with a lot of fights, he does, I think. And Joshua, he wants to fight at this point finally. But the bottom line is
he's hurt, Joshua. He's hurt his left elbow.
Right. Like he's not hurt where it's going to impact the ability for him to get back in the ring later in the year. But anyway, Tyson Fury was on vacation at Lake Como, Italy. I guess they have a Grand Prix race there also. And he was taking in the F1 race. And he made the video where, if you watch the video, it's on his social media channels. He's got the perspective where he's looking out on the lake and it's beautiful scenery. And he's talking about how nice the vacation is and what a scene. And he says, hey, there's been a lot of discussion that I might be coming back to boxing. Well, timeout. This is I'm inserting the comment. The reason is because you're the one that went on a social media video a month ago and made the video with you and Sugar Hill Stewart in the gym talking about how you were coming back and that, you were here we're going to do some work and this and that. So you led everybody to believe, overtly that you were about to end your retirement. And so when people talk about that, you can't say that that's anybody's fault but yourself.
Exactly.
That's besides the point. So he says, what do I need to come back for just to get punched in the face, blah, blah, blah. He says, so here we are. And I quote from the video, I'm retired and I'm staying retired. I've got nothing to prove to anybody and nothing to return for. God bless you all. See you on the other side. And I'll just say this. If Tyson Fury is serious, I mean, I'd still hope he would reconsider and fight the Joshua fight and then go and enjoy his retirement. But if that is, in fact, the end of it, what can you do? You can't make a guy fight. He had a hell of a career. He made, boatloads and boatloads of money.
Arguably a $50 million payday to fight Anthony Joshua whenever Joshua's healthy.
I tell you,
I will believe in January of next year when he hasn't fought that he's retired. Until January, as I put there on the screen, I'll give it another 8 or 9 months. And if he hasn't fought, then I'm buying he's retired. Stay tuned. That's my thought. That's my thought on that.
I mean, but he could just as well wake up and make a video saying exactly the opposite in a couple of days.
Of course he could. One other nugget, Canelo was at a media gathering right at a golf tournament over the weekend, and Canelo said to the media, it's there on the screen, say it for the pod audience. What did Canelo say to the media?
Well, he was asked about his boxing future, and we all know he's fighting Terrence Crawford. It's not a matter of who he's fighting or even when he's fighting. It's in September. But there's been a lot of discussion about where the fight's going to take place because of Turki Al-Sheikh having announced that it would be first on September 12th at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And then soon thereafter saying, no, hold up. It's not going to be at the Allegiant Stadium. It's going to be on Saturday, September 13th. And, oh, by the way, it might be in Las Vegas. It might be in New York. It might be in L.A. It might be, on the moon. Anyway, when Canelo was asked this in this little media gathering, he said, no, it's going to be in Las Vegas. So he contradicted, whatever Turki Al-Sheikh was saying, although he was asked about working with Turki and doing the skull fight. And, he said everything is good. It was a good experience. But, it needs, I'm paraphrasing him. It needs to be in Las Vegas. That's where my people are. That's where we're going to have the fight. So, this whole rollout of this fight, which is a big fight, has been to be charitable, handled like
a hand grenade.
Exactly. Because
they are, as Chris Berman used to do the highlights on NFL primetime of the NFL football game, stumbling, bumbling, rumbling out of the gates right now on how to promote this.
All I know is
you said this. You said this. There are so many compelling reasons, financial and otherwise, to have it in Vegas, and just because they haven't said that it's definitely in Las Vegas doesn't mean so. And I tend to believe Canelo on this. It's going to be in Las Vegas.
It probably will be, but I just know this. I've seen any number of mega fights rolled out, and this one has been it's not like negative about the fight. It's not a negativity towards them doing the matchup that some people are really into for their own reasons, but you want to have all your ducks in a row and launch it in a big way with a big press conference, with a big media tour, with a lot of interviews, with a lot of the nice artwork and all the different things, and give clarity so your fans who you want to come to your event and buy tickets and hype everything up and get excited, so they know where they can get a hotel room, so they know where they can,
of course,
get an airplane, if they're going to fly, so they can maybe find a place to buy their tickets instead of leaving everybody hanging. And it's disappointing because it should be. I mean, we'll see what happens, but it should be the biggest fight of this year. The biggest event of this year, I would think.
This is the biggest fight that can be in North America, whether it's this year or next year. This is the biggest one that's out there.
I mean, it's one of the biggest fights, in recent years.
Yes.
I think in America, it's probably the biggest fight. You tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just off the top of my head. I'm thinking biggest fight since Crawford and Spence.
Correct. And we were there together. The one time that we've been together, that was 2 years ago. But yeah, there's not another. You could say before that in this century, and we have to qualify it this way, it's Fury and Wilder in this country. Yeah. Certainly Usyk and Fury twice has been a bigger deal worldwide. We agree on that. But in this country, the Canelo-Crawford fight in North America is the biggest fight.
Canelo against Caleb Plant for Undisputed was a pretty big fight also. That was a huge crowd. It's had a massive gate, it did a much bigger pay-per-view. than the third Fury and Wilder fight. So that was a big deal. Also, I'm only making the point though, whatever order you put it in, they need to get this situated so we have clarity of when and where that this big fight is going to take place.
By the way, they're taking swings at me, and you love this on all fronts on the live video. Canada Chris wants to know, TJ, how many hats you got back there behind the screen? Rafael looks at this all the time when we're on the video hookup.
Sure.
They don't see it on the Bet US show, but now you're seeing it on the live show. I wear a lot of hats, as you can see back there, and I kind of have some rankings with my Lightning, my Rays, my Buccaneers.
When I used to do the old boxing beat show when ESPN Plus was first created and they were filling spots and needed programming content, I did like the boxing interview show there for a while. And every single episode that we would do, I had a setup in my basement. They had set up a guest room with a nice studio and all the accoutrements and everything. Anyway, every single show I'd put a different boxing hat.
That's the way to be. And we see all the bobbleheads up above you, by the way. It looks like bobbleheads or books up above you on the bookshelf, whatever that is. So
a lot of boxing stuff behind me.
That is Dank Kid wants to know, is Turki Al-Sheikh trying to put the fight in Saudi Arabia? That's not going to happen.
No, I don't think that's the case. When he made his list of the places that was that he thought were the likely candidates, Saudi Arabia was never mentioned. This fight is not you never know, I guess, but since it was formulated and Turkey became involved, it was always situated as an American-based fight. I mean, frankly, it would make no sense to have this happen in Saudi Arabia because you're leaving. I mean, again, I know the Saudis aren't as concerned with the dollars as other promoters are, but I don't know anybody that's just going to, for no reason.
I don't know that the fighters would agree to that. I don't know that Crawford and Canelo agreed to it in the first place or would agree to this fight being in Saudi Arabia.
That's a different matter. But
they would want that fight here. So
if you put the fight in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, you'll do a $25 million game. There's no place else that will do that kind of money. Not even close.
Mr. Put them in the ground.
Including, by the way, the Allegiant Stadium.
Okay. Any truth to the rumor that Boots turned down the Teofimo Lopez fight while we do this live tonight? Do we know that he turned it down?
I've not heard that he's turned it down. I mean, I don't know. There was even an offer made for the Teofimo Lopez fight. So
for Boots Ennis. Jay Deep's already got an early prediction and says Usyk beats Dubois in the rematch. 10th round TKO. Take him to the bank. Buy a lottery ticket. All right. Let's get to some nostalgia, shall we? Tonight, as you and I sit here and do this on May the 25th, 2025, is the 60th anniversary of Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston, brief as it was.
By the way, before you go any further, I was not there.
You did not cover it. Neither of us were alive. And a lot of the audience watching us is not alive.
I was -5.
You and I both. And so that night in a little town called Lewiston in Maine at a youth hockey center, May 25, 1965, and we'll get into that here in a second, Ali defeats Liston with what was regarded then, regarded after in the short term, and has been regarded for 6 decades since as a phantom type punch. Was it really a big enough punch to have scored a first round knockout? Okay, so let's have fun with the Savages for a couple of remaining moments here. I hope you can see this, but it is on the screen, Dan Rafael. On the 60th anniversary of Ali-Liston, can you see the picture? We were rehearsing this before the show. You can't see the picture, but the audience, presumably, I'm double checking on YouTube that the audience can see this, or truly we do have radio on TV. So I want to double check. Yeah, it's there on the YouTube feed. I don't know why you can't see it. It's a glitch. It's a gremlin, but it's Ali standing over Liston in color photo, the iconic photo from Neil Leifer for Sports Illustrated of him standing over him in the first round. Incredible moment. Incredible photo, award-winning photo, made Neil Leifer's career. That he got that. Yeah.
If you're looking at I just clicked on the YouTube channel, so I see the photo.
Yes, you see the photo. There it is.
So if you take a look between Muhammad Ali's legs,
I'll point to it on the screen if I can.
You see a bald guy that looks like he's about to take a picture talking to a microphone. I'm not sure which it is. He's wearing glasses.
Yes.
You see what I'm talking about? There's behind that man, slightly to his right, there's another man with curly hair and his mouth open, like, oh my God, like look at the knockdown.
Right between Ali's legs. If we can't point to it with the cursor and you're not seeing it, right between Ali's legs, look at the head beside the guy with the glasses. Go ahead.
That's Larry Merchant.
Right there in the middle.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing that he was ringside for that fight 60 years ago, and Larry's still alive.
And he made it into, by the way, and I don't even think this is arguable. This is the singular most iconic boxing photo in the history.
Yes.
Of
Yes. Amazing.
I don't even know what else. What's second? What's the?
I don't know
second?
what would be there. And so from those at ringside that could hear him, Ali was yelling at Liston, get up, you chump, get up. And you see him on that photo with the mouth open yelling at him about get up. So
now
the
this was just so put this in context.
Yeah.
So we don't jump crazy all over the place. It was in February of 1964 where Ali, then Cassius Clay, scored the monstrous upset of Sonny Liston in the 6th round, where he quit on the stool to win the heavyweight championship in the first place. And this was the immediate rematch that took place in May of 1965. And in the right after he had won the title from Liston is when Cassius Clay changed his name. Changed. First it was Cassius X. Then he proclaimed the Cassius Muhammad Ali rather, and converted to Islam. And that became obviously a huge international story. And so this was his first fight after not only winning the title in the rematch, but also the conversion of his religion and changing his name. That a lot of people, unfortunately, it's an embarrassing thing for people in my walk of life as a journalist who refused to acknowledge him as Muhammad Ali. And years went by where people were still referring to him as Clay, which was extraordinarily disrespectful, but that's besides the point. But anyway, so this fight happened. You mentioned about how it took place in Lewiston, Maine. There was an attendance, TJ, of 2,434 for this kind of massive heavyweight championship fight.
So
and it was supposed to be in the Boston Garden.
That's what I was going to say. So let's go over that for just a second while we're doing nostalgia before we're done. They wanted the fight in Boston, but they could not get licensed in Massachusetts, as the historical story goes for the promoters. Right.
It was related to the issues related to the WBA, related to the Massachusetts Commission. They were concerned about lawsuits. There was a lot of minutia related to like legality things about it. And so, and also the original date was postponed because Ali had a medical issue and it prevented the fight from taking place on the original date. And when they went to reschedule it and still try to do it at the Boston Garden, it just wasn't going to happen. And so they wanted someplace that was still in that, I guess, market. And Lewiston, Maine is not that far from Boston, but then they had to find a place that was available. So they put this fight in Lewiston, Maine. And it's like one of the craziest things that you could have, because you could have obviously put a big crowd in. And the other thing about it, by the way, even though Ali had stopped Sonny Liston in their first fight and became the champion, the public wasn't believing what they saw was real because Sonny Liston went into the rematch as still a heavy favorite in the fight.
Yep, because he was such a menacing fighter. So this was in a youth hockey center in Lewiston, Maine on a weeknight with fewer than 2,000 people, reportedly in 2,400 announced. I mean, for the heavyweight title of the world, God, including Larry Merchant being there, Howard Cosell there. All right, so we're going to do something now for the audience on the subject of was it a phantom punch or not? Let's take a look through the magic of video. This is the old video from the closed circuit that's out there that's available on the internet. The punch is upcoming here with the right hand right about as they turn back around and Liston has his back to the camera. Here comes the quick right hand. And was this, I'm going to try to freeze it, was that a punch? And we see the Liston reaction. But, I mean, for all time, Liston is rolling around, like I like to say, Rafael, like a beached whale. Jersey Joe Walcott, the former heavyweight champ, is the ref, trying to get Ali to go to the corner. And look at Liston flopping around with Ali doing circles. What a mess.
By the way, let's just be clear about one thing.
Crazy moment. Go ahead.
Jersey Joe might have been a great heavyweight in a Hall of Famer, but he did a
as I like
job.
to say, I'll spell it L-O-S-T, lost, as the referee.
There were so many issues with how he handled this.
Because right here, for example,
terrible.
For the video audience, they're seeing it. For the podcast audience, you're not seeing it. We're showing the freeze frame of Walcott looking over at the timekeeper who is standing up on the apron waving at him. And so the timekeeper saying, I counted to 10, which, by the way, that shouldn't have mattered. It should only have been the referee's count. So Walcott is now going to leave the frame here and go over to the timekeeper, and they start fighting again.
If he doesn't pick up the count by 10, which is ridiculous, the fight would be over. But I've never seen a referee not pick up the count before 10. I've seen guys pick it up at 5, not at 10. It was just, the whole thing was handled garbage. It was just terrible.
We'll look at it one more time for the video audience. Do you believe, I'm going to put it on the screen. Is this a real punch, Dan Rafael? Ali called it the anchor punch after the fight. Here it comes. Short right hand. Do we believe that's a real punch?
I do think it's a real punch. Now, there's a difference between is it a real punch and is it a punch that it's big enough to actually score
to
the
make
knockout?
a man do what Sonny Liston is doing right there.
So, okay, here's my perspective, okay? It's a real punch, actually connected, may have even legitimately knocked him down. But when he got to the way he got to his knees and then fell over, that seemed to be a little bit over the top. So I feel like he was pressured as you do the reading and the research that the mafia and all that, they were involved. And, you know, there's the old sports writer Mark Cram from SI who wrote the famous book about from Joe Frazier's point of view about the thriller in Manila. He wrote, and I don't know if it's believable because Mark Cram, sometimes the things he wrote later after he was long gone became a little bit up for debate, said that Sonny Liston told him that Muhammad Ali was crazy and that he didn't want anything to do with him and that the Muslims were coming up, meaning into the ring. Who needs that? So I went down and I wasn't hit. And I don't know if Sonny Liston is all that believable also,
right?
In his own involvement with criminality.
with organized crime. And again, if you were going to fix a fight, this is how you would do it, where everybody's loaded up on the favorite, and then you as the mob fix the fight and have all your money on Ali and a knockout in the first round, or at least a knockout. Crazy that was 60 years ago.
It is, though. It is. Take controversial decisions out of the equation. You know, a Holyfield Lewis draw scorecard, right, or Colonel Whitaker against Julio Cesar Chavez, or any other of the massive controversies that we
controversy with Chavez stoppage of Meldrick Taylor. There's controversy with that.
Well, no, what I say, this is one of the most controversial endings of a fight ever. I would say, other than Meldrick and Chavez.
I think it's the most controversial ending of any heavyweight title fight. You can certainly say that. Then you can argue Chavez Taylor on that. And just one more point about all of this is,
but this was not a referee's decision, though. That was the referee's decision.
It was right. But bear in mind, the public could not see this except the closed circuit broadcast. There's no internet. There's no showing of this on the local news. So the newspaper is writing about it, where everybody would write about it. The radio is talking about it. And it was several weeks later that ABC with Howard Cosell showed the video that we just showed you and had a great debate. You can go on YouTube and watch the debate from that program where Cosell's got Jack Dempsey and Rocky Marciano and a couple of other guests debating, was it really a punch or not? My point is, the public was literally in the dark on being able to see it and see what happened for so long that it added to the lore and the thought that this was fixed. So
one of the things when you mentioned about it being available to the public on a closed circuit basis, that's one of the reasons why they moved it to Lewiston, Maine, because they wanted to preserve that closed circuit date, because even with a big crowd, they were probably going to generate more of the money through a closed circuit around the country than they would have just in the one location. So therefore they kept it on that date and still made it available on closed circuit. Because if you're watching in a movie theater, it doesn't matter to you if it's taking place in Lewiston, Maine, or the Boston Garden, or on
That's right.
So that was a big part of their decision to do that. It's a lot of business and a lot of intricate things that were involved with the reasons why it landed there and the date and everything. But the fight itself,
crazy.
I think the punch was legit that knocked him down. I'm just not sure that Sonny Liston gave the effort to try to beat the count.
Chaos. Go back and relive it if you want on YouTube. We relived it tonight. With that, we have done well with our Fight Freaks Unite recap live show on YouTube. Now, you may be seeing it on demand later on Sunday night of Memorial Day weekend, on Monday, etc. For the podcast audience, you can come see the video that we were just talking about. Come to the Big Fight Weekend YouTube page and see what we were talking about, including the photo of Ali over Liston and the video. So, Dan, great stuff. Great stuff with this tonight. Again, for the YouTube audience, hit subscribe on the channel. That helps us. Hit the like button. Comment below the finished video as well. That will help in the algorithms. We'll do some more live creative things here on the channel. We have a lot of nostalgia on the channel under the video section. We love putting the nostalgia
also,
there. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give him a little pop, because coming up this coming Saturday, of course, is the return to the ring for Caleb Plant and also Jamal Charlo in their doubleheader. And if they both win, they'll fight each other. But a few videos back on this here YouTube channel is my interview with Caleb Plant. You can watch the video. We played the audio on our podcast on the last show, but you can certainly check out the video of
so that video is still sitting there, and again, we encourage you to check that out. You're going to see other unique content, other interviews Dan is doing by video. We'll put those on the YouTube channel. Be subscribed, and you get an automatic notification when something is new on the channel as well. So great stuff with that. For the pod audience, thank you for hanging. Make sure you're following and subscribing. YouTube audience, thank you. Dan, have a great rest of the Memorial Day weekend. Everybody, remember what the holiday's all about. It is kind of somber, but you also want to celebrate the remembrance and the lives of those that we've lost as well on the holiday. I had a great time talking fights tonight. Thank you for accommodating me, and thank you to the YouTube audience as well. Dan, anything else? Are we good?
I think we're good. Have yourself a good weekend. Go enjoy yourself.
You too as well.
Mission Impossible.
Yes, Mission Impossible movie in the Rives household, like a lot of other people, coming tomorrow. Can't get that done tonight, but coming tomorrow. Big Dan, thank you. Caleb Plant week for his main event later this week, as well as some other fights. Hang in there for us. And we've been with you tonight on the YouTube channel with the Fight Freaks Unite recap podcast and show. For the pod audience, thank you for being with us as well. Good night.